Hi, let's talk about anxiety and how to deal with it. It's my story about anxiety and how I went through it my whole life and what I did. And maybe it sounds familiar to you, but be aware that it's never the same. Anxiety is something very individual, but there are ways to go through it and to overcome it and to live a life that is not focused on anxiety. So my name is Petra Schwab. I'm the owner of viedo Coaching, and I'm a coach for change. Why do I talk about anxiety? Over, let's say, more or less 50 decades, I was dealing with anxiety and what is connected with anxiety, all these emotions. I was a happy child. I was really a happy child, and that was my strategy. To appear happy and funny and eloquent and smart was one of my techniques to show up a picture of me, a role of me that nobody knows what's going on inside. And that's what a lot of people do. I'm since 35 years a coach and social worker, and through my whole life, my personal life, but as well through my entire working life, I had to deal with people that finally, when you broke down all the subjects and they want to talk about, it comes to that point of anxiety. So my own story was, I was a happy child going through life, excited and courageous and funny. But inside of me, there was that big fear, that big anxiety of people, anxiety of how will it be, anxiety to be lonely, to be separated, and all that I carried through my whole life. It's not about talking where it comes from. Of course, in coaching or therapy, you look where it comes from. But if you stay there, you will always carry the anxiety through your whole life. And so did I. I did it. I carried my anxiety with me for nearly 50 years. And it became really horrible in certain times because I had panic attacks, depression, eating disorders, all that stuff I was going through. Even I was living a good life. Seen from outside, nobody would have thought that I was dealing with this. There were only a few people, these very close people that I trusted, that I told. And I think this is one of the remarkable things. People don't talk about it. It's not usual to step out and say, oh my God, I have panic attacks. I have anxiety. Or if you meet someone and people say, hey, how are you doing? You don't say, oh, I have a panic attack. Can you please stay here with me and support me going through this? We never talk about it because it's such a subject that is kept in secret. So I went through this my entire life, and keeping it as a secret was topping a stress on it that today that I'm living a good life, I would say this topping of the secret, it makes me feel even worse. So I went through life, I was living that power woman, strong woman, being a single mom, and then organizing everything well, relationships, business, being successful in everything was my way to show up as a powerful woman. And the more I showed up as that power woman, the more the anxiety came up. To fail, to be wrong in all that stuff, to not be loved. Everything you can question yourself. I felt this anxiety. So yeah, during the years it was really hard till I came to that point that I had a burnout. And I don't want to say everyone has to go through a burnout. I hope nobody should do that. But for me, it was the best thing that could ever happen. It is now 25 years ago, but during a night I broke down. I woke up and I realized, oh my God, it's something like a panic attack, heart attack. I couldn't move my legs. And that was really hard because I was with my kids and they were young kids alone in that flat. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Am I dying? And in a way it was like I was dying because that was the beginning of my death as a woman who's living totally in anxiety. But it took me another 10 years to step further, to go the next step, to allow myself to create a life in joy and peace and happiness. And that's so crazy because that was the point that was holding me back. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe that I deserved such a beautiful life. And when I talk to my clients, it always comes to that point. People think they don't deserve to live without anxiety. So they keep it, they carry it through all life. And for me, this burnout was a turning point. But it took a lot of years to go through it, to understand where it came from, that it wasn't my decision to live that way, that I took it as a child to understand what's going on. And so after a while, I realized, oh my God, I need support. I need someone who's guiding me through this. So I had a coach, and this guy who was guiding me through it, and that was hard work. That was really hard work. But today I would say, oh my God, it was the best thing ever. To realize that I have to take responsibility for myself, that nothing will change if I don't take that responsibility for a better life. So I started creating a vision, an idea of how life could be. But I still was, over some years, I was like, yeah, that's a nice idea to have that happy life without that anxiety, without panic attacks. But I didn't allow myself to live that life. I was so in that program, running program. And the more I tried to live the new life, the more my mind and the programs, they picked me up and they said, stop. You're not allowed to do that. And so I fell back and back and back, and I got tired about this. But I knew that if I want to change something in my life, I have to go on. It's like if you want to run a marathon, you have to go through a long-term training till you can really run a marathon. So I did that, and I went to workshops, I went to coachings, I went to therapy, did all that stuff. And step by step, I realized all this is helpful, but it's about my decision. It's really about my personal decision to stop it. That doesn't mean there is a switch that you can say, oh, I stop it, and you stop it, and from tomorrow you live a happy life. No, but that decision, and it's not an intellectual decision, it's a decision from my heart to say, I really want to live differently. I really want to step out of that loop of panic, anxiety, fear, depression. I really want to go out of this. And so 10 years ago, I started going through this, and then I really started meditating. I started breath work. I started coaching. I started doing all the things I'm doing with my clients for myself. And then one day I realized, oh wow, it's working. It's really working for me, and I deserve it. And I'm the one who is so powerful. And I took off that coat of that playing, acting, happy woman, and I stepped into something new. I stepped into a life where I decide how I want to feel and how I want to go through things. And that doesn't mean that there is no anxiety anymore. Of course there is. It's part of our life, and it's pushing me again and again, but I can deal different with it, and I feel really happy with it. It's like anxiety coming up and I know how to handle it. It's not breaking me down for days or weeks or months. It's like, okay, there's an anxiety coming up. What is it telling me? What is behind that anxiety that I have to change or that I have to look at? And now that I'm working in this business of coaching and working with people who go through these anxieties that I had, and that I learned about it so much, about the science behind, about the tools you can use to step out of this loop. I'm a pretty happy woman, and I'm happy. I'm not acting happy. I am. I feel happy. I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of myself how I go through this. And the most important thing is I know and I feel by heart that I deserve it. I really deserve it, and that's the masterpiece, to really have that feeling, oh my God, I deserve to live that life without anxiety and panic. So that's my story, and that's the story of most of my customers. People go through it, and it's a long-term process. But what I do in my coachings with people who have anxiety, I work with them for a while, and I give them the tools to train themselves to be aware that they deserve everything they want. And then they start living this, and it's beautiful to see how it works and how they step into a new life. And anxiety is nothing that you have to keep for your whole life, but you have to make decisions. Decisions by your heart, not by your mind. This can be helpful, but it's not the solution. If your heart doesn't agree with that, it doesn't work out. So if you want to learn how to make this decision, if you want to be guided by me going through this, to step out of this loop of anxiety, send me a message, write me a mail, a WhatsApp, whatever, and let's talk about your situation, because as I said in the beginning, this may sound familiar to you, but anxiety and panic and fear is very individual, and we have to look which tools are the right ones for you and how I can support you. I would love to support you in going through this and stepping out of this loop of fear and anxiety. So take the courage, step out, go ahead, contact me, and let's see how we can change your life. My name is Petra Schwab from viedo Coaching, and I put the link where you can contact me in the comments, so it's easy for you to go and to do that. See you soon, and take care of yourself. And never forget, you deserve to be happy.